Tom Harper had weathered plenty in his 6 or 7 decades. Droughts and storms that nearly drowned him in debt, the occasional sheep breaking loose to wreak havoc on neighborhood flower beds. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have braced him for the whirlwind barreling up his gravel driveway that morning. Linda Grayson, the neighborhood HOA president, infamous for her giant sunglasses, larger-than-life personality, and impossibly stiff hairdo, strutted toward his porch like a general claiming victory. Her heels stabbed the stones with fierce determination. Tom sipped his coffee slowly, fighting a grin, wondering how his quiet morning had spiraled into this circus. "Tom Harper," Linda bellowed, pausing briefly to sidestep a nosy hen that refused to yield. She glared at the bird, muttering under her breath, "Move, you feathered nuisance." Tom stifled a laugh, pretending not to notice as Linda straightened her skirt, regained her poise, and resumed her grand march. He set his mug down, tipping his weathered baseball cap as she stormed up the steps. "Tom Harper," she began again, jabbing a polished fingernail at his chest. "This neighborhood demands your cooperation, right now." Tom raised an eyebrow, curious but wary. Linda's version of neighborhood usually meant only those who bowed to her every whim. Everyone else just paid fines. "Morning to you too, Linda," he said dryly. "Coffee? Fresh eggs? Or are you just here for the show?" Linda's frown deepened, momentarily derailed, but she snapped back into her aggressive stance. "This isn't a game, Tom. I'm here about the community festival. We require, no, we insist, your farm supplies produce for free." Tom blinked, waiting for the punchline. When none came, he chuckled softly, hoping to ease the tension. "Oh, Linda, you almost got me. But seriously, I can't just give my crops away. How about a fair discount instead?" Her eyes narrowed to slits, hands balling into fists. "Tom Harper," she hissed, leaning in like a conspirator. "You forget I'm HOA president. Do you really want to challenge me?" Tom took a slow sip of coffee, unfazed. "Linda, last I checked, my farm's not even in your HOA." She faltered, but quickly waved it off. "Details," she snapped. "You're close enough. Besides, think of your reputation. The neighborhood loves community spirit. It'd be a shame if rumors spread, say, that your farm's unsafe or unsanitary." Her smile dripped with venom. Tom's pulse quickened. This wasn't just Linda being her usual obnoxious self. She was threatening his livelihood. Still, he leaned back casually against the porch rail. "Are you threatening me over potatoes and zucchini?" "I'm suggesting cooperation," she corrected, her grin chilling. "Or consequences." Tom locked eyes with her, steady and firm. "Then let me save you the trouble, Linda. My answer's no. Your festival will survive without my carrots." Linda's jaw dropped, unaccustomed to defiance. Before she could fire back, the hen squawked loudly, startling her. She stumbled backward, nearly toppling in her pricey heels, and Tom seized the moment, laughing heartily as her face turned beet red. "You'll regret this, Tom Harper," she spat, retreating to her car, feathers clinging to her designer jacket. She sped off, narrowly missing his mailbox. Tom sighed, the humor fading into unease. He'd hoped retirement meant peace, not skirmishes with an HOA tyrant. Linda might be petty and absurd, but her threats carried a sharp edge that left him cautious. That afternoon, as he tended his thriving tomato patch, her words gnawed at him. Yet, he refused to let fear rule. He'd built this farm with sweat, grit, and a stubbornness tougher than the old pines lining his land. No HOA dictator would bully him. As the sun dipped low, casting golden light across the fields, his granddaughter Sophie raced up, phone in hand, breathless. "Grandpa, have you seen the community Facebook page?" Her voice trembled. Tom's stomach sank. Social media was Linda's weapon of choice. "What's that windbag up to now?" he muttered, wiping his hands on his jeans. Sophie hesitated. "Well, she says your carrots are toxic, your zucchini causes insomnia, and your spinach turns people blue." Tom blinked, then burst out laughing, shaking his head at the absurdity. "That's inventive, even for Linda. She wants a fight? I'll give her a veggie showdown." But beneath his bravado, unease crept in. What started as a ridiculous spat was turning into a real threat to his life's work. Linda's knack for twisting reality was no joke. That evening, as dusk settled over the farm, Tom stood on his porch, gazing at the land he'd nurtured for decades. It had been his refuge after losing his wife, carrying him through grief and the creaks of aging bones. Linda's attack felt personal, a violation beyond mere crops. Still, he'd faced worse. Headlights pierced the twilight, and he tensed, expecting Linda's sedan. Instead, it was Claire, Linda's shy assistant, hurrying toward him, looking guilty. "Tom," she whispered, glancing around nervously, "I had to warn you. Linda's serious. She's planning to shut your farm down. Be ready." Tom's blood chilled. The stakes had skyrocketed. He took a deep breath, steeling himself. "Bring it on," he murmured, staring into the darkening sky. The next morning, Tom woke before dawn, restless from Claire's warning. Linda's menace felt colder, more calculated than any storm he'd faced. He poured coffee into his favorite mug, world's best grandpa, because I say so, when a soft knock startled him. It was Claire again, clutching a folder marked "Confidential" in red ink. "Morning, Claire," he said warmly, noting her weary eyes. "Coffee? You look like Linda's been haunting you." Claire managed a shaky smile. "Ghost would be simpler. Linda didn't sleep. She's drafting ways to sabotage your farm, claiming zoning violations." I couldn't rest knowing her plans. Tom handed her a mug, her hands trembling as she took it. "Why risk this, Claire? Linda's wrath isn't worth it." Tears welled in her eyes. "My family lost their farm to her years ago. Fines, rules, nonsense. I can't let her ruin you too." Tom softened, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You're braver than you know, Claire." "She doesn't scare me." Claire nodded weakly. "She scares everyone else, and she's got pull. Take her seriously. That folder has proof of her shady finances. Use it carefully." Tom winked. "What folder?" She relaxed, sipping coffee gratefully. After she left, Tom pored over the documents. Fake charges, spa trips billed as landscaping, donations that never reached the community. Linda's greed was worse than he'd imagined. By noon, her black sedan rolled up, and she emerged, sunglasses gleaming like a movie star. "Back so soon, Linda?" Tom called, leaning against a fence post. "Missed my chickens?" She scowled, dodging the pecking hens. "Drop the act, Tom. Reconsidered my offer." He smiled. "You mean your demand?" "Sorry, my crops won't die for your ego." She waved an envelope dramatically. "Zoning issues, inspection failures, you're done." Tom raised an eyebrow. "Funny, I've passed every check for 20 years. Did my barn sneak out last night?" She smirked. "You'll see what an HOA president can do for the greater good." Tom folded his arms. "Threats don't faze me, Linda. But the neighborhood might enjoy hearing how their dues fund your spa days." Linda froze, sunglasses slipping, eyes wide. "That's absurd. Who told you, Claire?" Tom shrugged. "Maybe I'm just psychic." She stormed forward, furious, tripping over the hen again as she retreated, vowing, "This isn't over." Tom exhaled, tension easing slightly. He'd shaken her, but at what cost? Later, his friend Mike arrived, grinning, phone in hand. "Tom, your spinach turned someone's dog purple, according to Facebook." Tom chuckled, but Mike sobered. "Be careful. Linda's cunning. People might laugh now, but doubt spreads fast." Tom nodded, clutching Claire's folder. Linda wouldn't stop until she'd crushed him, but he wouldn't back down either. At the community festival, Tom arrived with Mike, crates of vibrant produce in tow. Linda glowered as neighbors cheered Tom's arrival, her wilted substitutes paling in comparison. She stormed over, inspecting his goods with theatrical suspicion. "Hope this meets standards," she snapped loudly. Tom handed her a tomato. "Try it, Linda. Might sweeten you up." She bit into it, juice dripping, her scowl faltering as she enjoyed it despite herself. Laughter rippled through the crowd as she stomped off, humiliated. But then, chaos. Linda collapsed dramatically, clutching her chest. "It's Tom's vegetables. They're poison," she wailed. Tom's heart raced as paramedics arrived, only to declare her fine, just theatrical. The crowd roared with laughter, and Tom offered her a hand. "Time to stop pretending, Linda. People deserve truth." Tears welled in her eyes, vulnerability breaking through. "I've tried controlling everything, and it always fails," she whispered. "I was wrong, Tom." She stood, facing the crowd. "I owe you all, especially Tom, an apology. I was wrong about him and his farm." Applause erupted, And Tom smiled, relieved. Healing had begun. Days later, Linda arrived at Tom's farm, subdued, handing him damning financial records. "You could ruin me with these," she said. Tom shook his head. "Let's tell the truth together." At the next meeting, she confessed, stepping down as president, and Tom urged unity. The community rallied, and that night, they gathered at his farm, laughter echoing under the stars. Linda mingled genuinely, and Tom watched, proud. Through kindness, not vengeance, he'd restored peace.